if we just take the base platform, the cloud is far more functionality rich than data center.
It's much easier through a partner to find out, is anyone going to help me, or is that as is and I have to circumvent that?
Which means that you have, roughly a year to get yourself ready, to find a partner, to find the resources, to find the budget, to do that. The overall feeling was shocked at the timing, but less shocked that it was coming.
Welcome to a new video of Siebert Group. I have Dan from AppFi.
Yeah.
Hi, Dan.
Hello, how are you, Martin?
Good.
Perfect.
Thanks for dropping by in Germany.
Yeah, no, thank you very much for having me.
We want to talk about Atlassian ending the life of their data center deployment.
Yes.
Can you tell us a little bit about how did you personally and how did you as a company at AppFi perceive this message? How did you get it? Give us an anecdote. I don't know. What happened?
I was actually on holiday when the news broke, but the community Slack was very quick to respond and share the news. So I heard it fairly quick through the Atlassian community. But once it started going through the company, the overall feeling was shocked at the timing, but less shocked that it was coming. Mm-hmm. If you look at Atlassian's approach over the last 4 years, since kind of the server was even announced for going end of life, you could genuinely see the way that they were going to go. So it's no overall surprise that eventually the announcement came.
We had a survey, I think, when Atlassian announced end of life for server. We had a survey with customers on when Atlassian would announce end of life for data center. Mm-hmm. And Atlassian was very mad on us for doing that. And it was a combination of consultants we have that deal with customers a lot and actual customers and internal people from our management. And there's a blog post. I would have to look it up, but it was in the middle of 28. That was
not far.
Yeah, and I was the first thing that when I heard it, we weren't that far off. No. But at the same point, when I heard it, I was kind of shocked, like you were, because I thought in the past years that Atlassian would shift that further in the past because there was quite some resistance.
Yes.
And when I was talking about this move with my wife, she was asking, are customers asking for that? I said, no, there's not a single customer asking for that. No. It's like Atlassian pushing that onto customers. Is it like, are they screwing over the customers? Don't F the customer? Or are they saving the customers for all the bullshit that they have to endure with data center today?
It's an interesting one. So I think when you look at an overall company's approach to SaaS software, people will be using SaaS software across the board. If you think about Salesforce, HubSpot, even if you were to go to things like SAP, they're all on cloud. You can see the motion of the way, and that's been going on for the last 10, 15 years. So that's genuinely how software is going to be deployed within businesses. I think the difference with work management and a lot of IP data, when you think about software companies and GitHub, GitLab, Bitbucket, things like that, they do seem a bit more protective because that information the companies tend to want a bit more away from everything else. I don't think they're necessarily going against Atlassian's initial values, no matter whether or not customers believe that. I think that there is just genuinely a change in the way some markets are a little bit more adaptive to wanting to innovate and try things, and some are a little bit more cautious, and that's natural as well. So I don't think you can expect every business to want this decision to happen, but I think in somewhat it was going to be inevitable.
For us at least, and for our customers, it's a clearer situation. That's something that I value because it makes conversations with customers simpler.
Yes.
So there's a finite date. Maybe you'll get an exception, but you'll be one of the very few people getting that. And even that will only be for a certain amount of time, and you'll probably buy that with a lot of money, and most people want to do that.
I think you'll end up seeing specific industries that it applies to in terms of those exceptions. The ones maybe around defense. I imagine defense will probably be one of them, but until we see more around the
Don't we call it attack now?
Oh, yes, sorry. Yes, the Department of War. But when you think about things like the isolated cloud, the Gov Cloud, Atlassian is trying to accommodate every need with the cloud. I thought personally that the end of life would come slightly later. I still thought less than 2030, but I thought it'd be slightly closer because I don't think that right now the cloud can cover all of everybody's needs. When you think about certain data residencies, certain governments and compliant regulations, they've only just got their FedRAMP.
I can assume that a few people may lack some info that we're talking about. I hope that we'll be able to put in a link below so that you can read a blog post and a microsite that we've set up with all the details, which we won't cover here. And if not, you can add a comment and we'll give you that link. It's not far away. Let's talk about AppFire, the company you're working for and the largest provider of apps in Atlassian Marketplace today.
Yes.
There was a business partner who's no longer in the Atlassian ecosystem. So I told you before, and I'll cite him here quickly. He said, "Oh, yeah, AppFire. They are building a graveyard of server apps." Yeah. What he meant is they are buying apps from people who want to quit because they have all this money, and then they take the graveyard apps who will not survive the future. That was his perception back then. You're still here, very much alive, not part of the graveyard. One of the things that come with that metaphor is the need to renovate the technology your apps are built on.
Yes.
And I think this is crucial to what a lot of our customers will want to know. So how ready is AppFire for this transition into the cloud? Do I have to leave behind all my AppFire apps because I can't use them in the cloud anymore? Or what's your status there?
Yeah, so there are some very specific data center related apps. Now, come the end of life, if you use those and you decide to transition to cloud, you won't get those in cloud. But that is because they were designed for data center. So things around being able to get better understanding of the resources that the machine uses and stuff like that. Now, for the vast, vast majority of our 160, 170 something apps, they are cloud ready. If somebody obviously chooses to migrate, which I imagine is probably a heavy topic for a lot of businesses right now, then yes, if they've got AppFire apps involved in their ecosystem, then they can certainly transition those. And we have plenty of materials that can help companies understand how, what, when, why to make those decisions as well. So yeah.
I assume that your company is not lucky enough to have a customer who has installed all of AppFire's 190 apps.
I think the only one must be our own demo system.
Yeah. Sorry. And so how do I find out whether my specific apps that I have from AppFire apply to this parity thing or this Cloud Plus thing? How do I find out?
So if you go to appfire.com/migration, that will have all the links and information about every single one of our apps. Or you can contact our support portal through any of the Microsoft Marketplace apps. They'll give you all the links anyway. But in our documentation, we'll have, it will give you information about the parity. It will give you information about how to migrate. Now, again, depending on Confluence or Jira or what the app specifically does, there might be certain specific tasks, but most of them will go through automatically using the native migration assistance as well. So that's all. Yeah.
Can you talk about this automatic migration again? So how is the happy path that customers will see, and what's the, let's say, not so happy path?
So the advice that any marketplace partner will give you, including us, is that you should first of all speak to your relevant solution partner, because they will be able to provide real hands-on advice. They're the ones that are doing it day in, day out with plenty of us, with plenty of different customers. So they can give you lots of different advice about how, what, when. But ultimately, you'll probably move using, depending on how you want to do that migration, but you'll probably use one of the native migration assistants, so either JCMA or CCMA. So that's Jira Cloud Migration Assistant or Confluence Cloud Migration Assistant. And let's take Jira, for example, and let's say that you're moving one of our automation apps for JMWE. Now, what it will do is you follow the wizard that's built into the native migration assistant, and it will tell you to install the app. It will tell you which workflows and which apps that you need to move and how it moves them. And then once you click migrate or push to cloud, that all happens behind the scenes using the native migration assistant and will give you a replica in the cloud. Now, for certain things, for example, if you have lots of custom scripts in one of the many scripting automation apps that exist in the marketplace, you're going to have to then do manual work to change that script from what existed on DC to cloud, and that has to be built into part of that migration process.
Okay, that's so the happy path would be I use one of those automated migration paths that Atlassian offers me within the app. Your AppFire apps will tie into that progress.
Yes.
And when I get out of the tunnel on the other side, I will have the very same configuration. Yeah. So that's the happy path. Let's assume it doesn't work for your app data or something. What am I going to do then now?
This is exactly where solution partners make the difference, because they have a lot of more hands-on experience, and I have been there. I have done these migrations for when I was at end customers and a solution partner myself. No migration is ever going to be 100% the same. You're going to hit different hurdles, and when you do hit those manual processes, there's a level of assessment that you have to do during the test phase, which is how useful is this information? If it's business critical, do we need to reevaluate our process? And is it a case of, at the very worst case scenario, does someone have to manually copy and paste or redo that piece of configuration into the cloud once you get there? But that will be different for every different business, and that becomes part of the assessment in order to do so.
Sometimes things will go astray when you do that. For Atlassian, it would be best if we just dropped all our data and started fresh in the cloud instance, because no one had to migrate anything. Everyone could have a fresh start, easy. Obviously, people don't do that. But what we do see is that customers lose some weight while they
during the move.
So, how can you explain a little from your experience, maybe also with customers, how this is obviously something that affects us as marketplace vendors, AppFire as much as us, that customers just drop an app because they say, oh, this is making trouble now, or this is more expensive in the cloud, or I don't like how they implemented this and that, so I'll drop the whole thing. And tell us a little bit about what you see customers be doing, why they're doing that, if that is sensible or not, and so on.
So the cloud, if we just take the base platform, the cloud is far more functionality rich than data center in the vast majority of terms, which means that there is now native functionality that just didn't exist before. So one easy reason why some customers may want to drop apps is because they no longer see the need to pay again where they already have that functionality. And that's okay, because I think a healthy part of any migration is understanding where you are and what you want to be. And part of that process is to look to do things like instance optimizations and app rationalizations. Let's say we have 5 different automation apps. We don't need all 5 in the cloud. There's native, and maybe you take one extra for a marketplace to help with automation limits and some additional functionality. So you have to do that genuine process. And also one of the biggest reasons is that instances bloat. They get big. People forget to do governance and health checks regularly enough, where these things will crop up when you go to then make huge business transformations like this.
Yeah, what we see customers do also a lot is those migration projects often turn out to be first a major thing, and then also an expensive thing because they have to put in time, their own time, our time, sometimes Atlassian times, sometimes vendor times. And then you could either drop something, as you said, because it's natively installed in Jira Cloud already, which, okay, it could happen. And it does happen, but it's not the most common thing. I think it's more common if people drop things altogether, that they just say, oh, that wasn't important enough. Like if I compare now the pricing with the utility we get, I just throw out the utility and save the money, which in these times for some companies is just a good thing to do.
But I think that comes down to the governance and health checking that every instance will need regularly, fairly regularly anyway, which is, do we need this functionality? Are we getting this functionality? And again, you're right. If eventually that decision is, which is the original team that wanted it no longer needs this because it's not part of their process, well, then why are you paying for it?
That's, by the way, also something that we see customers see a lot of value in with working upon a partner like us, is natively you don't get the information whether you need the app. Yes. You need someone who has some tools to find out. So the easiest way is in Confluence, for example, you can count the pages on which this macro is used, and then you can say, oh, okay, that's only 10 pages. I can talk to those 10 people, and then we can get rid of the app because I don't want it anymore, or I want to replace it. And that's also something that I wanted to say is this is also the time where you could be thinking about replacing things. Yes. You have some leading apps yourself.
Yes.
So as a customer, you may want to understand that those apps often are not the cheapest because they have a very beneficial marketplace positioning. So replacing such apps with a cheaper competitor can be beneficial feature-wise, it can be beneficial budget-wise. And for example, for scripting, as you said, it's the other way around. Like ScriptRunner is obviously the leading solution, very expensive. Mm-hmm. And then JMWE is something that is much cheaper, yet still very powerful.
Absolutely. I think for this, there's a really simple calculation, but again, it'll be different for every business. And unfortunately, there is no finite answer. But the ultimate thing is, which is, what is going to be the return on the investment? And you have to look at it objectively, which is app A costs me $10,000 a year. Whereas if I go to this other app, it might be $5,000, but the cost in internal time or paying a partner to do the change from one script engine to another script engine or whatever it might be, if that costs me $20,000 to do, the ROI just isn't there to do. But that's not the case.
I beg to disagree.
Really?
Because the total cost of ownership is not 1 year.
No.
So the total cost of ownership is rather something between 3, and if you're a slow attack company, it's rather a 10-year thing. So with your 10K, we're now talking about 50 to 100K that you're going to be paying over the course of the lifetime of your app.
But this is where it will differ per use case. Some will be quick, some won't be. The businesses will be quick, some won't be.
Yeah, sure.
But that's where the ROI comes in, which is, do I have the resources available? Do I have the knowledge available to do that in whatever might be? And then you make that assessment on a per app basis. Now, in terms of consolidation, that is very common. We often see, working with our partners, especially during migrations, where again, we talk about companies having 50 to 60 apps, because that's quite common across a DC instance over time. And then they want to consolidate. Again, some go native and just get dropped. But then you look to things like content formatting macros where one app can do 5 apps. And again, you make that assessment to make that move. Again, it's it's a healthy thing to do, to go through these assessments. Solution partners will help customers with those decisions, but it will be on a customer by customer basis.
Which AppFire apps are best positioned to be the competitor that customers should switch to when they now make the move? So which are cheap and good targets to offload something that I am using, maybe a bloated, expensive other app?
Tempo timesheets is an easy one because I think that has been around for a very, very long time. It is a market leader.
So that's not his app, but that's like right. Where people come from. Yeah. Okay.
So that is the market leader in this particular thing. However, because it's...
And which apps do you have to replace?
So there's 7Pace, which is our time tracking app that we have. It still offers about 60-70% of the functionality, much lower cost. So that's an easy one to do.
7Pace. Okay, what else?
There's JMW Weave, which still offers the ability to reduce things like technical debt and remove scripting, but still have the ability to do everything that you need.
And that's replacing ScriptRunner?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so there's things like that. We've got things like a Dashboard Hub, which is, again, a really good alternative for current BI reporting ones against things like Power BI, Easy BI, and maybe connectors. But again, that could differ if a company wants data in or out.
Yeah, cool. So. Okay, I'm a customer now, and I'm seeing those timelines. I think it's March 2029.
Yeah, it sounds about right.
And how urgent is this for me? Can I just hit the snooze button and wait a little?
I think, in all honesty, it's a conversation which you need to be having. I don't think people should rush to move, because I think if you rush, it's going to go wrong. But you have to understand that, especially for the large enterprises, when we're talking 10, 20, 30, 40,000 people, these are going to be multi-year migrations anyway, because you're going to have to do the pre-phase, understanding which teams need to move, how they need to move, what data can just be archived. That is a big process in itself. And then depending on the size, again, you might have 2 phases, you might have 6 phases. So it's not, you need to be having the initial conversation, which is, do we want to go to cloud? If we do want to go to cloud, how long do we roughly think it's going to take us because of X number of other factors? And then you have to start working backwards. So if you know that you want to move by October 2028 and it's going to take you 2 years, you need to have started the actual migration by October 2026, which means that you have, roughly a year to get yourself ready, to find a partner, to find the resources, to find the budget to do that. And those decisions don't come around very quickly.
What's the sweet spot for engaging with a partner? So if we are a startup of 12 people on a data center instance, which would be very expensive because I think it's 500 is the minimum. But that's true. That's the case. Or we have a server instance and now we want to go to cloud. We would obviously say, don't take a partner. Just roll the dice and you'll be lucky. Everything will be fine. Otherwise, the other 9 will be okay with you screwing up some things. Yeah. Where's the sweet spot? So how much can I do myself internally? How many people do I need? And when should I ask a partner?
Honestly, I think coming from being a previous partner, I actually think you should engage a partner anyway.
Okay.
I think
because most people will be above 500, and then
most people are going to be above 500. There's a lot of benefits that partners can bring. First of all, just advice. Even if you don't actually actively migrate a customer, being able to go back to someone and say, like, I think I'm about to go wrong. What am I doing? That's really powerful. There's license benefits. There's lots and lots of things of reasons why we should be using partners anyway. But I think you should always engage. Once you have engaged, I think there is the genuine assessment, which is what budget can we put behind it? And do we have the knowledge internally to do that? Now, again, most teams will, but then it becomes about, can I utilize that resource better doing something else for the business and just offload that pressure? Because, I'll be honest, migrations are horrible. They're really, really stressful for anybody to do. And if this is your first time trying to move Atlassian products because you only have one ecosystem, you'll probably make a few test runs before you get something right, whereas bringing partners will be able to get you to the point of move much quicker. So there is a reason.
I fully agree. Like for DC migration, you probably want to talk to someone who knows and who has done that already. There's really no point. It's a one-time thing.
Yeah.
There are hundreds of ways to doing that wrong, and probably only a few to do it right.
And I think part of that discussion is enablement. And again, solution partners have so much knowledge which they can pass down to teams to get them quicker enabled for cloud, because it is a change.
And there's also like connections to other vendors.
Yes.
And connections to Atlassian themselves. Like if you have a bug or a special need, it's much easier through a partner to find out, is anyone going to help me, or is that as is and I have to circumvent that? AppFire is engaging in other ecosystems, Monday.com, Microsoft.
Yeah.
So what's your best guess on how many customers will leave the Atlassian ecosystem instead of migrate? And do you see your customers go to Monday.com or a Microsoft environment now as you are engaged in those other ecosystems as well? Or do you have any intelligence on that?
I think some will leave. I think that's natural. I think big announcements like this often give companies a push in one way or another, which is we go cloud because we're heavily invested with Atlassian, or do you know what, this is the time that we need to leave. And I think that's natural. No customer is ever going to stay tied to one ecosystem forever. I also think that's not a smart move. You have to look at what you're doing, how you're doing it, and what you need to use that with. If they decide to go to Monday, then go for it. There's plenty of help out there. There's quite a few solution partners that are also involved around Monday. So again, there's help that they can do, but you have to make the assessment. I think the majority will probably stay.
Yeah. So what we see on the Monday.com marketplace is very small customers. Yeah. So I think now we're talking about data center, which is 500 plus.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that Microsoft is a bigger target. I think that you already know, if you're watching this video, that you're not going to lead the Atlassian ecosystem. I have two reasons for you. First, I assume that Atlassian has spent a lot of money on analyzing how big is the likeliness of customers to leave. And obviously, there will be some people who can do that. The challenge that I see is Confluence and Jira tend to be not sticky at all until they become very sticky.
Yeah.
And if you are still running on data center today, your Jira and Confluence is probably very sticky.
It's probably well ingrained.
Yeah, if it's not well ingrained, you will have to move to cloud long ago because it would have been easy.
Yeah.
But it obviously was not easy, so you're still there. And that's why I think it's a non-topic actually. But still, I think it's part of the migration to at least check, can I do that? And obviously, most customers will save a lot of money if they just terminate the whole thing. Us too, obviously hope for you to stay around for a little. Dan, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you
that was
very much
awesome.
for having me. Yeah, it's been great.